I was given a table, so it's finally time for me to do something with it. It's a drop leaf table. So I've had a Pinterest board of Turkish design. This whole idea was originally inspired by something I saw on Pinterest. I did a screenshot, but that was a couple phones ago, and now I can't find it. So I'm sad about that, but I created a new board, and I'm definitely inspired. I have an idea in mind, and that table is where I'm going to execute my idea. I'm choosing two papers from Made by Marley. This one is called Love Your Greens, and the other one is called Roar. I'll be focusing more on the smaller motifs in these designs than the larger ones. I'm a brand ambassador with Made by Marley papers, so this is going to go right along with this dream of mine of this Turkish design. So in looking at these beautiful papers, I'm trying to find, and also my Pinterest ideas, I'm trying to find a color that just seems like a good place to start for a base coat. And I believe a deep navy blue is a good place to start. Anyone that follows my channel knows that I like to get to the good stuff right away and do all the pretty things first. Well, I need to really force myself to do these legs first, because I'm going to then reattach the legs and stand the table up so that I can sort of work on it as you would a jigsaw puzzle. I'll be working my design on the tabletop primarily. Someone was kind enough to number all of the legs and coordinate it with the table, so we'll take advantage of that. I'm adding some detail. It would be kind of boring just to do regular old navy blue legs, so we're adding in some pops of color inspired by the paper. We're also going to be adding lots of gold to these designs, just because that seems to be very prevalent in these Turkish designs. And I keep saying Turkish, but I also see influences of Moroccan as well. So there's an Arabic, there's lots of Eastern influence there. As I was scrolling, I came across this picture. This is about as close to my original picture that I saw a long time ago that I saved. So I just love this whole thing. So this is kind of inspo. And also the next picture shows a way that I can possibly extend my design for the leaves of the table. I continue to stripe my legs and now adding some gold paint. I'm using some gold paint with a brayer on one of the stamps from the Bohemia stamp set from Iron Orchid Designs. Kind of wrapping it around the legs and just getting my getting a little bit of that design on that middle section. I also add a smaller stamp down towards the bottom, and then I put a few more on some of the red sections. Meanwhile, it's finally time to get to the table, and I am starting on the bottom first. And I think after a cleaning that the perfect color to use on those on that skirted part of the table is that same navy blue. So I grab my brush out of the plastic bag and give it a first coat. When my second coat is dry, I decide on the short ends that you'll see that skirt, so we're going to give it a little stamp treatment, also from that same Bohemia stamp set. And the gold paint. I have my stencil centered on the table, but some of the design goes over the line, so those points would be crossing that line. I want it to look just as good when the leaves are in the down position as well as when they're up. So I'm going to explode the design a bit. I start by using my gold paint to stencil the star in the middle. I know I want to do that, and I'm also going to use the gold paint just to lightly stencil the points around it. Now, a lot of decoupage papers you have to paint white, or you should paint white underneath because they're thin rice paper. Not with Made by Marley paper. It is thick, so it doesn't matter what color paint you have on underneath. You're still going to get that beautiful coloration that's in the paper. So I'm just doing that just to give myself a guide so I know where to put all of those little points that I cut out. So I'm going to use Mod Podge, and I have all those little pieces of paper cut out. So it worked out so perfectly that I had some cut in one direction and some cut in another, and I was just able to alternate up and down. So my pattern looks great. I had laid them all out first, and now I'm picking each one up, putting the Mod Podge underneath, laying it back in place, and painting the Mod Podge over the top of the diamond. And I continue this pattern until I have that complete circle. I knew this would be a time-consuming project, but it's just in my heart, and I can't wait to put it on this tabletop. And I can only hope that it is as beautiful as some of the designs that I've seen. I know that the paper's beautiful, so I have a great start. Here's what it's looking like. I want to add some more paint on the gold, put another coat on there, and you can see some of the Mod Podge is already drying. I use a tabletop to draw a ring equidistant around the design that I just did. Then I take a pencil and a straight edge and establish another diamond. It took a minute for me to decide exactly where I was going to place my diamond, but I knew I wanted just a larger diamond shape to mimic what was in the stencil, and that's what I came up with. It didn't have to be perfect for each one because I really didn't measure each one. I know they're going to be off slightly. So now I'm just taking a piece of Mylar and a Sharpie and drawing around those lines, and then I can cut it out. That's what that looked like, and then I will have another template. I continued around the rest of the circle, and then I turned my attention to the leaves. So I'm using the stencil again, and I repositioned it towards the ends or the sides of it to again explode my design a little bit. So I'm using the stencil just like I did before and getting that pattern established there. And I plan on continuing my efforts and doing the same thing. And I'm going to use the patterns on this remaining sheet from the Riot set. Here's how it's looking. I'm loving it, and I'm going to come back in with the Mod Podge, make sure I don't have anything sticking up and everything's glued down. I can't resist. I'm going for some florals. I'm using a third set called Indian Garden. Two of the sheets are exactly the same, so I've got them stapled at the ends so I can cut them together. There they are, both at the same time. Both came out great. Following the same process, I decoupage those papers on the edge. I place them so that I have them spaced evenly, and I get them to the edge as far as possible because when it dries, I can sand that a little bit. I didn't realize my edge was curved at first. I'm going over everything now to make sure everything is down nice and smooth. I find these little leaf designs in the Bohemia stamp set as well. I am not sure how I missed seeing them before, but for this instance, they're just perfect. I'm using the gold Posca marker to outline all of my diamond shapes. I started out using a ruler, but then I quickly abandoned that. First of all, because it takes less time, and secondly, because my diamonds are kind of imperfect, so that allows me to sort of fill in spaces where I need to. Next, I used that shape from the stencil and cut out some of the floral designs and place them around my central design. And I'm truly glad I took this step. I just love those larger flowers inside that medallion shape. I go around the outside of my table with gold paint. I'm getting near to the end and I just have a few other things, little details that I need to take care of, and then finally to touch everything up. I used the Mod Podge not only to add a few diamonds that I found that were large left over from the third row, so I don't want to waste them, so I'll put them on. I'm also taking the Mod Podge and I coat the entire table now because it had a sheen where the Mod Podge was and the rest of the table was not as bright. Later on, I painted over that stamp I had just done and redid everything. I found a stencil that I had bought from the dollar store many years ago, and I used the Posca marker through the stencil and put some really cool paisleys and a lotus, which are really prevalent in this Turkish design, and I'm very happy now. Check the description box for the link to Made by Marley papers. You will love using this technique or whatever you dream up yourself. This was a fun project. Almost to the finish line, I take a board and do a test because I have some that is dull and some that is not, and I want to see if one coat of a different kind of Mod Podge, the gloss Mod Podge, will cover everything. I missed the original footage, so I'm recreating the painting for you. So I'm content that it is glossy. And so I do a light sanding on the table with a 220 grit. I was a little nervous to do this, but I did, and I'm very glad I did because it really kind of helped tone down the bright gold, but it wasn't too bad. So it kind of married what I painted to the Posca marker, both in gold, but they were kind of a little different. So I went over the whole piece, and there was this one section right here on the flower that it had a crease in it. So my sanding brought that down, but it also kind of made a white mark. I was okay with that because it was just kind of distressed. If you'll notice here, there's a spot on the table that was chipped, and I could have filled it in the beginning, but I opted not to because I just thought I wanted this table to look old, and that, of course, was one of the signs of an old table. So I wasn't afraid to pour this gloss Mod Podge on and distribute it with my brush. I only wish now I had distributed with a roller because now I have brush marks. So I'm going to go back and once again put Mod Podge on and distribute it with a roller. Here's what it's looking like as it is drying. It is really cloudy at first. After another sanding with the 220 grit paper and wiping that sanding dust off, I am going back again with pouring the gloss Mod Podge and using a roller to distribute it, being very careful not to leave any roller marks. So here's what it looks like, and whatever I get is what I get. Here's a look at this piece before, now have a look after. Thank you so much for watching today. If you like this content, I'd love it if you'd give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. You can also join our channel membership for only 99 cents a month for some exclusive content. Find us on the web at www.statementdesigns.org and on social media as Statement Designs. Stay well.